I literally just started filming the outro, and I forgot that I had this. So, let me go ahead and properly show us on the camera there. You see all that? Okay, those are a lot of 30 Japanese Game Boy games. That was over 2 years ago now, and this whole time those games have been sitting in that box, untouched, unplayed, and I think it's time to change that. Over the past few months, I've been reorganizing my game room. I've unloaded all my boxes and finally got to display all my games on these two new shelves over here, and over here is where I keep all my music CDs and handheld video games. These Game Boy games are kept in these standard DS-sized cases, which take up very little space but still let me see my whole collection. The artwork for these cases comes from a website called thecoverproject.net, and using Super Mario Land here as an example, you can see just how nice this artwork can look. I've got 30 Japanese Game Boy games here. This pile is all the games that have a cover already available through the Cover Project, but this pile does not, and there's actually quite a bit more over here. So, it's time to make our own covers. If you have some basic photo editing skills and software, this is incredibly easy to do. The first thing I'm going to do is search Google Images for the box art of the game I want. If I can find the back of the box as well, that's a nice bonus, but for me, it's not really that important if I can't. Next, it's time to open up Photoshop and bring up artwork of another game that's already made. Then, it's as easy as pasting the new art over this and making a new spine. Okay, this game is done. Just gotta do that another 16 times. After all that's done, it's time to get them printed. I don't have a printer at home, so I'm just going to go over to my local library. I've already preset the artwork to print at the exact size when scaled to 100%, so it's just as simple as opening up Paint and sending the print job to the color printer. Well, that doesn't look right. Let me try again. Oh yeah, that's much better. Now that I've got my print settings just how I like them, it's time to print out the rest. I'm going to pause the video here. If you look closely, you can see the left side of the art is actually cut off. Well, this is because of the print margins, and unfortunately the library doesn't give me any way of changing that. Technically, the best paper to use if you want the full art is legal-sized paper, 8.5 by 14, which I have used in the past back when I had a printer of my own. However, since this is going to be on the back of the case, I personally don't care enough to fix it, if so little is missing anyway. Speaking of cases, a fresh supply of replacement DS cases just arrived from Amazon. These particular cases have a Game Boy Advance slot inside of them, and that's the kind you'll want if you want to do this job yourself. Not to mention it makes this a cinch for GBA games since you just plop the game in and you're set. Anyway, it's time to get the art ready. Let's go ahead and trim it down to size. And then it's as simple as slotting it into place and there you go. Again, the back is missing a tiny bit of artwork, but that's okay. As I said, I'll probably never look at it anyway. Now comes the hard part. If it wasn't obvious, a Game Boy game cannot fit inside one of these cases because there's not enough room. So we're going to have to modify it. I found the best way to do this is with a utility knife. On the bottom of the GBA slot, you're going to want to cut these two corners, then score the bottom. You'll want to be very careful while doing this. It's easy for the knife to slip, and I have cut myself in the past while doing this. After that, it should just wiggle right off. The next part is a lot more destructive. We have to cut right along the middle of the DS slot, all the way through the plastic. Then score the top of the slot, and it's very likely you'll cut through the sleeve on the other side. These replacement cases are very flimsy, but trust me, you'd prefer doing this to one of these instead of an official case anyway. Finish scoring around the rest of the DS slot, and finally pop it out. After all that, finally, the Game Boy game fits. Almost. It fits much better upside down inside the case. Well, we're technically finished, but there's still this giant gap where the plastic used to be. What I like to do is grab some electrical tape, cut a few strips, and stick it in the case, both on the inside and the outside so the tape doesn't stick to anything. This makes the case look a lot nicer. And once we put the artwork and the game back inside, that's it, we're done. Our Game Boy game now has a new place to call home. Now just to do it another 29 times. Well, that's a giant pile of paper I could chuck into recycling, but look at that. That is 30 Japanese Game Boy games, all in their own unique cases and ready to add to my shelf. Let's go ahead and do just that. And here's the final result. The shelf is packed full of games from every Nintendo handheld system. The black spines are games in English, and the white spines are games in Japanese. And what about this game with no spine? Well, it's not a game at all. That is a special device I use to dump Game Boy games to my computer so I'll never lose a Pokemon save file again. Thanks to the cover project, my Game Boy games are now much more organized, they look great on a shelf, and now that they're in cases like this, it's a great incentive for me to actually pick up the game and play it just as they are meant to be. That does it for this video. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and I hope that maybe this gave you a little bit of inspiration to better organize and display your game collection. Thanks everyone for watching, and stay tuned for more.